Food is more than just what's on our plate. It's the places where it's grown, it's the people who grow it, and so much more. Join me, Janice Person, your host, on Grounded by the Farm every other week as we talk about the foods we love. Driving on Route 66 from St. Louis to Chicago or vice versa, you will come across Funk's Maple Syrup. And they have a nice shop there. The Funk family has been in this business for a while, and I had the chance to visit with Jeff Hake, who is a new member of the family, married in, and he and his wife and his brother-in-law are into foraging. They're growing some fruit that they're making fruit leather with, and I had a chance to just sit down and chat with Jeff one day about one of the very few native fruits in the United States and how they're lucky enough to have a lot of that in their grove and what we can learn from that and some of the other foraging they do. So sit back. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Yeah, so it's my wife and her brother. They are the sixth generation of the Funk family, or at least the syrup Funks.
Katie and Jonathan.
Yes.
Johnny.
Yep. This is the Funk's Grove Pure Maple Syrup is the official name of the business, which is part of Sweetwater Farm. And Sweetwater Farms oversees both the syrup operation and also a lot of just conventional grain production.
Okay.
In 2015, Katie and Jonathan started talking about wanting to start their own farm. Mm-hmm. They had an interest in just trying to grow things more sustainably, doing more food grade things. And they had the opportunity because their parents had bought a 9-acre property in Funk's Grove. They planned to have an organic winery, and it just didn't. It just didn't take off.
Yeah.
So they took all the vines back out, and the ground just sat kind of empty for a while. So that was the opportunity, and that's how Katie and I met. And we started actually selling products from the farm in 2018. And so we have a line of baking mixes of pancake mix and muffin mix, Johnny cake mix. We make fruit leathers from the fruit that we raise. We have our own seasoning made from the ramps that grow in the woods, combined with maple sugar from the syrup operation. Katie makes this absolutely incredible maple black raspberry sauce from black raspberries that we foraged from all over the grove. And I know that you're interested in talking about Pawpaws.
He is hiding the secret that why I'm here. He knows once he says it out loud.
It's a secret.
We're going to talk.
So yeah, Funk's Grove, among many other things, is an absolutely amazing old-growth hardwood forest. And among all the species that it has are Pawpaws.
And it's between St. Louis and Chicago. If folks aren't really familiar, Illinois is a big state. So
big, long state.
It's a big, long state, but it's not far from the interstate. I mean, the interstate is really close. So it's easy to get here. And to have old-growth woods like this is kind of unique, I would say.
Actually, just a quick note, I find it fascinating that they built the interstate, I think, in the 50s or the 60s. And if you look on a map, you can see that it bends around the grove. And that's because the Funk family was basically like, please don't go through the woods to build the interstate. And so they actually made it go around.
I'm from a place where we sued over, you're not going to mess up my zoo. So
yeah, I mean, it's like, let's just bulldoze right through. It's like, no. That's not happening. There's like 300, 400-year-old trees in these woods. You can't just build a highway through it. So for all the other problems that the interstate caused by being built, at least they didn't go through this place. So yeah, there's Pawpaws all over this place. Pawpaws and ramps. And are you familiar with ramps?
No. Tell me, what is this other piece that you're talking about?
So ramps are a species of onion that is native to here.
Okay.
It's actually, as far as I understand, it's actually what Chicago is named after. Chicago roughly translates in the indigenous language of the people who are from there to stinking onion.
Okay.
And there's a debate about whether it's that or a different onion species that they were actually talking about with that word.
Stinky. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, so that's where actually the name Chicago comes from, is the ramp. And Funk's Grove has a lot of ramps. So there's a lot of conversation about sustainably harvesting them. I only take the leaf tops. I don't dig them.
Right.
And then dehydrate them, powder them, and we make a seasoning out of it. It's super pungent because it's
very cool.
It's dehydrated ramps and then maple sugar and black pepper and salt. And it's a perfect all-in-one seasoning.
I'll have to get some before I leave.
Yeah. Happy to.
in the store. So part of it to me is you guys are all doing this. You're all probably in your 30s, 20s,
yes.
30s?
Yeah, 30s
something
and 40s.
like that. And so you guys are doing this kind of what, like every person in your age group, you're foraging for a lot of these things, right? In a section of woods and things that you know well, family property for the most of it, right? Yep. So you get to know exactly where you have one thing or another in abundance.
Yes. Yep. I've gotten to know, I mean, I am, as I was saying before, I'm a person who's just like drawn to the woods. Like I just want to be in there. And it's a problem sometimes because it's like things have to get done. And I wander off into the woods looking for things. I've gotten to know really, I mean, I know a spot where I can go find white oyster mushrooms this time of year, every year reliably. I know where the chanterelles are. I mean, the pawpaws you don't have to look for because they're everywhere. And the ramps and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, and I'm, it's not like it's just me. I mean, the
whole family.
The whole family knows
it's a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who love to forage, and I'm not a hunter, but there's a lot of folks who hunt, and it's private land, so we get to say what goes and what doesn't on it, which I have mixed feelings about the idea of like such a beautiful place being private, but I'm glad it is because then you get to say...
You can also steward it in a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. So we're going to focus more of our conversation now on pawpaws. Are you ready?
I hope I'm ready to answer these questions.
I'm not sure you are.
Someone who's an expert is going to come on and be like, that's not right.
No. I mean, the thing is I think very few people have had much connection at all with them. Some people have only heard about them because they were written about like in the New York Times a few years ago, and suddenly it became the most trendy thing to have. Pawpaws are one of few American fruits, right? So cranberries are uniquely American. Pawpaws are uniquely American.
Yes. Yep. And they've been here for many thousands of years, predating human activity. As far as I was saying, that they were originally adapted to coexist with much larger mammals than much larger herbivorous mammals than we even have now.
Okay.
And so other animals have adapted to eating them, but it's a little rougher in their digestive tracts. Because the idea is that the whole fruit gets eaten and then they swallow the seeds, and then the seed comes out encased in their feces, and then it's like...
And then it populates itself again, right? So pawpaws in size, is it similar to like an apple or pear, or... Because if it's going to get eaten by itself, I'm trying to figure out these big, huge mammals that we're eating it all in one thing.
A whole bite. Yeah. They obviously they range. I mean, there's some that are small as like a plum.
Okay.
But a good average size one is a nice, comfortable fit in your hand, like a decent potato or a pear. Yeah, a big pear. I mean, there are cultivated ones that are
big
monsters.
Yeah,
and they're cultivated for size. They're cultivated for reduced seed count or reduced seed size.
Yeah.
There's a ton of variety in the woods here of all different kinds. And it, like, again, like I know my spots
where
of
the
like,
ones are you like and the ones that like,
So 2 years ago, I was like, okay, this is the year I'm going to pick a lot of pawpaws. Like I'm going to actually like have a plan. And my metric was, I was just telling you the roadside back where we drove through on the way here.
The closed road.
The closed road. I know my spot out there. And I was like, okay, it's super easy I can just drive by those and just check. And when those are ready, then I'll go check all the others. And I learned that year that is the latest patch in the entire grove. So I missed everything else. All I got were those. So now I know.
Now you know.
and they're decent quality, but I also have found some, there's some that you find that are so soft and they're like almost the color of a banana.
Yeah. Those
are the ones that you eat them and it tastes like lemon sherbet or like citrus.
I was going to ask you what you think it tastes like.
I mean, it varies so widely. And there's some that suck. There's some that taste so bad. Occasionally.
It's a distinct flavor sometimes, and sometimes it's a little more like a tropical.
Yeah, broadly, it's tropical flavors, which just by itself is not something you get from fruit that's growing around here, whether it's native or not. I was going
to say in Ohio and Illinois, that's what you expect, tropical.
Right? Yeah, it's like a citrus mango custard all in one fruit because the texture is like a thick pudding.
Yeah.
And that's what turns people off from it sometimes too. So
if you have textural issues, it's not the thing for you.
Not the thing for you, which is fine. I understand because sometimes I eat it and even I'm like,
So Sirius, I think it was Sirius Eats, called it a sunny, eclectic, and downright tropical It's like a riot of mango, banana, citrus that's incongruous with its temperate forest origins.
Yes.
It's like that's really heady stuff, but basically it doesn't belong here in your mind, because we've come to think of tropical fruits as places that are beachfront and warm all year and not getting a lot of snow, which this part of Illinois is cold in the winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets bitter cold, but those trees survive like it's no problem at all. I think maybe this will typify it well. I had a customer who I was selling them through the shop just whole last fall, and he drove down from Peoria, which is almost an hour, just to buy some Pawpaws from us. And then he texted me later, like we got talking, and I was like, you gotta let me know what you thought. And he's like, first one, it's like my childhood summers. I haven't had it. It was nostalgia, pure, fruity, tropical goodness. Second one tasted like wet sand. It's like, oh, sorry, man. Like, it's just...
You can't taste them all before you sell them.
Exactly. I'll eventually get to know all of my spots well enough, and I'm like, I'm not picking those, but I don't know them well enough for that yet. That'll be a lifetime.
So these are all wild. They cross however they want to. There's no breeders that are coming up with new cultivars on your land.
Right.
But there are cultivars in other places. Now, I want to talk to you about growing pawpaws, because my brother, who was just on the podcast a few weeks ago, thinks that they're just like the worst thing in the world to try and grow. He says it just teaches you humility, because he's tried and tried and tried, and there's a weird combination of things, he seems to think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the environments that they grow best in here for both the health of the plant and actually fruiting, because they'll grow all over the place in the shade in the woods here, but doesn't mean they'll produce any fruit.
Yeah.
Somewhere between like a rich woodland soil and like creek bank sand. So the best spot actually is on a creek down here where they're basically growing in a floodplain.
Okay. And
we had terrible floods last year, and we lost a lot of them because they gambled and lost in that flood.
Yeah.
But
they like a little bit of open so they can get some sun.
Right.
They're smaller trees. They're not real tall. So.
Right. The biggest ones we have around here, I think, are 40 or 50 feet, and those are pretty unusual. They like the edges of things.
Yeah.
So those ones on the roadside are perfect. If I see pawpaws growing in an open spot in the woods, and it's worth checking. If they're growing under a bunch of other stuff that I just don't bother looking for fruit because it's not going to be there. That's really seems to determine what is going to actually cause fruiting to happen. Now, my understanding is with all those cultivars is that those are being bred for all those things I was just talking about, but also being able to withstand more sunny conditions, so you can grow them in a normal orchard setting.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to create. I mean, we do this, but like most farms are set up to just be sunny. Like you give things a lot of space, and so if you want to plant pawpaws and have them grow, then you need a variety that can stand it.
Yeah.
But ideally, you'd have them on the edge of a place. Wet is good. They like it. They like it on the wet side. Those are really the main things. There's more circumspect things too that they talk about. So they say that the flowers are like a blood red color.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be pollinated by carrion flies.
And they kind of hang down like a bell, look like a bell.
They're gorgeous. They're really cool. And they turn from green to like a deep red.
Mm-hmm.
And so they say they're pollinated by carrion flies that are attracted to the color and they say the flowers smell weird. I've never smelled them, but I like smelling flowers and things.
But maybe to flies they smell different.
Exactly. And so they say, and I think this is ridiculous, and I would never do this because who has the time or the amount of dead animals this require, because they say if you just have a patch of pawpaws, put a dead animal under there when the flowers are out.
Okay.
And not a thing I would ever do, because like I'm going to assume that the pawpaws can handle it just fine themselves.
My God.
I'm not that desperate for it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do think people who are interested in having pawpaws, it can be frustrating. My brother says all the permaculture people want to do it, right? Like it's that idea of returning back to traditional American native plants, all those kind of things are all things that we think are great. And so there's a real interest in having pawpaws, but my brother's taking classes with people. He's gone to all these things. He grows a lot of stuff very well, but pawpaws he's tried many times, and he's decided he will get them from friends that have deep woods.
I mean, it's, to be fair, I've never cultivated. I've only been here a few years,
right.
But I've never cultivated them because I know where to get them. And it's like
exactly.
planting a bunch of cultivars just seems kind of redundant if I can already get that many.
But now that it's trendy, I want people to understand why they may not be finding a lot of them, right? Like you can't go to Lowe's and buy a pawpaw tree probably. And the other thing is, well, somebody will be working on those cultivars enough.
Right.
One of the other things is though they typically are hard to ship. Like they're soft. Like you eat them when they're ripe off of the tree.
Right. Well, so actually the best, like the most surefire way of telling that they're ripe, because if you eat them underripe, you can really upset your stomach. It's a
short window?
Well, the first thing I was going to say is that as far as I understand, almost every part of the plant has some pretty reasonable degree of toxicity. So you really shouldn't eat the skin of the fruit itself. Don't eat the leaves, don't eat the bark, don't eat the seeds, none of that stuff.
Okay.
But even the underripe fruit has a certain amount of toxicity to it.
Okay.
And they even say that the fully ripe fruit, if you eat too many of them.
Yeah.
And like too many can be like.
It's the same thing with dragon fruit or something else. Like it can cause you internal issues. Well,
but they say that if you, again, someone who's listening to this podcast, if they know about Pawpaws, they're going to be like, ah! I think it's reasonable to say that there's a reasonable amount of evidence that you can develop certain chronic issues from eating too many Pawpaws. And they even say it can be like nervous system issues.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the toxin, but it can build up in your system over time. And they even say there's like a Parkinson's-like symptom that you can get from really eating a lot of Pawpaws.
I'm going to be careful with eating too many Pawpaws.
Right. Yeah. So like I have a friend who's like, she's one of the most brilliant. Her name's Eliza Greenman. I call her a friend. I've met her once, but she's brilliant. And she knows her tree fruits super well, and she'll only eat like 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah.
When she gets them, and that's it, because she's just not sure.
Yeah.
It's a reasonable amount of caution. And then it's a treat for you too. You eat your 1 or 2, and then you're done.
Yeah.
So there's reasons to be cautious about these kind of things.
I love it.
This is the other thing I wanted to say. I was going to almost say this before. I was saying how I only sell whole Pawpaws because I haven't figured out another product to make with them yet. I tried to make Pawpaw fruit leather, and I'm so glad that my wife very rarely was away on a trip when I made it, because I made it one night and I ate 3 strips of it, and it was delicious. It was totally great. I didn't put anything else in it. I didn't use a sweetener. It was just Pawpaw, and I was like, that was great. And I laid down to go to sleep, and also was like, oh no. And I threw up. I had stomach cramps for 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
And then I found out, and it's like a stupid social media thing. I posted like, I made this fruit leather. It's so good. And then I went to bed, and then had all these problems. I woke up in the morning, and multiple of her friends were like, don't do it. It was way too late. And it turns out that's a thing. Like there's something about dehydrating and concentrating it that basically those little bit
toxins do not go with the water. They stay with the fruit.
So and a friend of mine said that he also made some for a cooking contest for that Pawpaw festival, and he got a bunch of people sick while he was there in Ohio. Yeah. So,
oh gosh, that's
so
bad.
Don't make Pawpaw fruit leather. Whoever's listening to this.
I love it. So let's talk about fruit leather while we're at it, right? So I think that phrase may be something not a lot of people are familiar with, right? Because I think other people like, I don't know, fruit roll-ups or something. Fruit
by the foot, fruit roll-up, fruit jerky sometimes comes up. But yeah, it's that. I mean, it's the thing that you had as a kid, maybe as a treat, or you've given to your kids or something. We're making something pretty similar to that, except that it's real whole fruit that we grow and process ourselves.
Right.
And we add maple sugar to. And for a few of the flavors, we also add a little cinnamon and salt. So our apple pie flavor, a little cinnamon and salt, pear cobbler, a little bit of cinnamon and salt. But it's just whole ingredients.
And I recently saw a video of you making one of those.
Right. Yes. So in that video, I was making black currant fruit leather. That's another thing that is a fruit that's popular in other places, but not here. For
the Brits, absolutely.
Exactly.
Love black currant.
Yep. British, French, Polish.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find black currants in all kinds of...
My grandmother used to put them in something when we were kids, and she'd put them in cinnamon rolls.
Oh, that sounds good.
And I'm not a fan. So,
it's not for everyone.
I'm
surprised that it can be that popular in other places. I saw there was a black currant Tic Tac flavor.
They'll do everything in black currant in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know, if you sweeten it up enough.
And currants in the US are not what black currants are. There are some things here that are basically raisins.
Right, that are a different fruit entirely.
But it's not the same thing, and
Right.
the British make sure you understand that. Because
they will tell you.
They will tell you. But my grandmother did put it. They were good to other people, not to me.
Yeah. We actually sell a blackcurrant preserves made nearby here in the shop.
Okay.
It's really tasty.
Okay.
It's sweetened enough that
I may even be willing to try it. I don't know.
Blackcurrants are pretty intense, and that blackcurrant fruit leather that we make is not for everyone either, because and that's actually the product is called Fruit Wowzers, because that was our first flavor, and you eat it and you're like wowzers, because it's so intense. You just bite it, it's like huh. And if you don't like tart things, you won't like it. So
that's interesting. So in this world of foraging for different things, right? Because those currants just grow also.
Well, we have those cultivated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have some things that you're growing in a cultivated space.
Right.
Besides currants, what else?
So we have black currants and red currants. We have apples, peaches, pears. We're trying persimmons, which is a native fruit, but we have it planted.
Like the Asian version, which is really big.
No, we just have some native ones that we got. We are growing Asian pears. What else do we have out there? Well, as far as fruit we're cultivating goes, that's what we have out there. And then we also forage black raspberries. We've tried some blackberries, mulberries, black gooseberries.
Black gooseberries.
Yeah, that was a new one to me because I saw them growing. I was like, I bet those are gooseberries. And as they ripened, I was like, those are dark. And it's just a species of gooseberry that is black, and then it just looks like a currant by the time it's done. But there's some just growing out in the woods over there. So, sure.
Interesting. And you sell different combinations of all those things here in the maple syrup shop.
Right, and we keep adding more things. Oh, here's another controversial thing.
Why not bring it up?
Oh, well, there's grapes. I forgot about the grapes, which are almost ready at the farm. But are you familiar with autumn olive? Have you heard of autumn olive? Autumn olive
Do tell.
Is a plant that was, I think it's Asian Russian in origin. I don't remember exactly. Oh, God, I should know that. Anyway, it was imported back, again, in the 50s or 60s as a shrub for erosion control, for, it's a
at the same time they brought kudzu, I'm sure.
Yeah. There were a lot of mistakes made. I think it's leguminous.
Okay.
It grows really fast. It has a lot of habitat and feeding for birds. Good for birds and stuff.
Yeah. Wildlife benefits.
Right. It is also crazy invasive. It's now there's eradication programs for it.
Yeah.
Put it in, take it back out.
Yeah.
And I know people who were part of planting programs when they were kids, and now it's like, oh God, get it out. But it produces a fruit. There's actually a company over in Champaign, I'm not sure if it's still active or not, called Autumnberry Inspired, and they make jam products from that. They just wild forage it because in disturbed areas, it just takes over. It's just a thicket.
Yeah.
And the best way to harvest it is just cut the whole bush down and just shake the fruit off of it because it'll come back.
Oh, wow.
Some people would say, take the fruit if you want, but then also burn it. We have a modest amount here. We don't have too much of it because I'm looking at where they are in the direction from here. So I do cut whole branches and then, throw away the branches. But I mean, it produces a ton of fruit on its own. It's a fairly small red fruit. It's about the size of a red currant or so. Really beautiful, sparkly fruit, actually. Mm-hmm. Makes an amazing fruit leather. So we make an autumnberry.
Also the size of blueberries for people that can't see about the size of your hands and aren't sure on currants.
Yeah, maybe even a little smaller than maybe like a size like a wild blueberry, like a Maine wild blueberry. But it produces thousands of them per bush.
Oh wow!
So I mean the corollary benefit is that we're taking that many seeds out of the environment and we're helping reduce spread. Some will say, surely that doesn't matter because we're leaving so much more out there, and it would be really good of us as ecologists to completely eradicate them. I have other things I need to do with my time aside from remove these things. So I'll do my middling approach of just taking some of the fruit of the environment and get a product out of it.
Yeah.
Great fruit leather, though.
I love it. Well, we're going to put the video of you making fruit leather. We'll make sure we'll put that in the show notes so that if folks are interested. I mean, because it's like an hour-long video, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I did a whole tutorial.
It's like the whole process, which so often people cut it down into where it's like 5 minutes and you're like, I don't know how many things I just missed, but I feel like I missed a lot because my stuff didn't come out right.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, I would hate to mislead people or whatever. And in my head, part of the justification for doing that video was like, if I show people how to do this and they see how many steps it is.
Yeah.
And if they still want fruit leather, maybe they'll just buy it from us instead. Because it takes so much work.
Well, it's like I told you, I don't farm, but I love that other people do. I love to eat. So it's the whole thing comes roundabout. Well, we're going to go out and take a look. The storm seems to have passed. So we'll go out and look around. I'm going to have to check out this shop now. Because God knows I have to buy things everywhere I go. Is there anything I forgot to ask you about?
Gosh, I mean, I could talk forever. I'm trying to think of anything because you were particularly curious about pawpaws. They say that just as far as like cultivation goes, they'll spread by clonal roots, but they won't pollinate within the same clonal family, and so you're actually supposed to have two different genetic like sets of genes. So you plant a seed from one fruit over here and a seed from another fruit over there, and then those have to cross-pollinate. So you can't start with just one fruit. And even if it produces multiple trees, they won't pollinate.
It still won't pollinate, and so you won't have them. Right. I think there's other trees like that have some of those problems.
Can't remember what they are.
And so I'm just blown away by, one, how many people suddenly knew what they were, right? Like, it just seemed
I think the vogue of permaculture and restorative agriculture and agroforestry has really helped push a lot of that forward.
And you're from the Northeast originally, which is definitely big in that whole idea of permaculture.
Yes. It's what's really exciting to me is that the idea of agroforestry is starting to show up on the landscape out here a lot more and starting to weave its way into conventional cropping systems and things. And the Savannah Institute and other organizations like that are doing a really great job of getting that out there, making it practical and economical and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And get some trees out there, get some trees in the landscape.
Always for more trees.
Yes.
I'm from Memphis. When I get in a place that's too open, I feel vulnerable. Like I expect a reasonable number of trees around me.
Yeah, I grew up in the woods, and I'm so glad I get to be in Funk's Grove now. There's plenty of trees because I get the same feeling.
The sunsets last longer in those other places, but okay. Well, thanks so much, Jeff. I really appreciate your coming on the show. People can connect with you guys on Facebook. I certainly did. That's kind of how we got in touch. You have your own website, and the shop has a website as well. Yep. Some of these things don't ship, so you need to come here.
Yes. Yeah, we can ship certain things. If you want things in glass bottles, we'll probably discourage you from trying to have us ship that because it's super expensive. We don't ship the pawpaws because they won't make it. Yeah, you can call the shop. I can leave the number on your website or what have you and order stuff to ship. We'll be running out of syrup and everything by the end of this month.
I've already warned you that I want to come back because I've gotten to help tap trees, and I had somebody show me how the whole process works, but it wasn't actually happening, and that's very different.
Yeah, it's a whole huge process. I can show you when we go out there, but we made walnut syrup for the first time this year, tapping black walnut trees, which was delicious and a lot of work. I mean, this place is incredibly worth a visit.
So there you go. As you can tell, Jeff and I probably could have talked all day long. We do have a video where I went out and got to see a pawpaw tree. We found one single pawpaw on that tree, which is a little bit crazy. But it had been raining a lot, so we didn't want to go deep into the woods. So we'll just take it at that. We also saw some of the other things that they're trying, some of the fruit trees they've been planting, some neat onions they have going on, all kinds of stuff. So hope you'll check that out. It's on groundedbythefarm.com. And please share this if you know somebody else who would find interest in foraging and some of our native foods in the United States. I hope you share this episode with them. We'll be back in 2 weeks.